All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go over your notes here. The achievements section covers two different standards that you'll be assessed on tomorrow. One is asking how advances in technology impacted productivity. So basically, how did technology make life easier? And the second one is identify features of Mesopotamia and contributions to the modern world. So what were some of the achievements that impact us that we still use today? So the first one that we're going to start off with that came up was farming. And there's a couple of different pages here that went along with the farming, but the first one talked about something called irrigation. And we've mentioned that here in class. That irrigation is how they got water from one place to the other. So in Mesopotamia, they would dig ditches to bring water from the rivers to the fields. So how does that impact us today? Well, irrigation today, we have something called sprinklers. So that would be a modern day impact. We still use irrigation today. Now there's many other forms, but that I'm just trying to keep it simple. All right, another thing that they developed was the plow. So the plow would go through and dig the soil so that it was easier to plant in. And how does that impact us today? Well, farmers still use the plow. Now, the technology is obviously better, and we have machines that do the plowing rather than the actual metal plow, but there are some places that still use a plow that was similar to Mesopotamians today in some foreign countries. And then they also have something called the cedar plow. So the cedar plow was that funnel that attached to the top of the plow that would drop in seeds into the field. So it made the planting part of it easier. And again, we have farming technology that plants seeds. So again, another connection to every day is that there's machinery. So although it's not the same, the idea has evolved over time. All right, the next one that came up was the wheel. Now this one is pretty evident about where we see it in everyday life. So it has again evolved from what it started off. At first we started seeing it in pottery in Mesopotamia. They would have a spinning wheel that they would shape their pottery on. And then eventually we saw it used in transportation, like carts. So something similar today would be like a wheelbarrow. We still use a pottery wheel today. And then chariots. Now, you don't see many chariots going around, but the same idea as far as the wheel goes. Maybe we see wheels used in watches, they had said in the video, or carousels, or if you go out to a pumpkin patch, you see horses carrying people in not a chariot, but a wagon. So those would all be similar things that we see today with the wheel being incorporated in everyday life today. All right, let's skip on over to the writing system. So they used something called cuneiform. And they wrote on clay tablets. So how does cuneiform connect to us today? Well, we write. We have a writing system today. How do clay tablets connect to us today? We record in notebooks. So again, not the exact same idea, but it's similar and has that evolution of things. And the cuneiform was a series of shapes or symbols that represented objects. All right, so similar to an emoji today. All right, let's skip on over to the mathematics. This is another easy one to make a modern world connection. So Mesopotamians were one of the first to develop this idea of counting. They needed a way to track things. So in cuneiform, they would write down using symbols or triangles, if you will. They would count what they were trading or what they were collecting or farming statistics. They also developed the idea of time. So how does that impact us today? We still use their idea of a 60-minute hour and a 60-second minute. So again, that's still used today. We still count today. So easy connection there. And then the last one is they were the ones that came up with this idea of the 12-month calendar with 7-day weeks. So all of this is still very prevalent in our society today that came from ancient Mesopotamia. All right, and the last one we're going to talk about is bronze. So the Sumerians or Mesopotamians mixed copper and tin. Okay, it made stronger tools and stronger weapons. All right, so the achievement of bronze eventually even played into the growth of their states or their cities becoming powerful places. So do we still use bronze today? Yeah, so if you're not sure of a modern world connection, go ahead and go onto the internet and see where you can find where it's used today. So it's stronger than copper, so it's very useful for tools and weapons. It's used in a variety of things, especially a lot of automobile pieces. All right, so those are all your modern day impacts as well as some of the achievements. Now there's many more, those are just some. So the last thing here on your own is choose one of these and talk about how it helped Sumerians or Mesopotamians, remember they're the same thing, it's just Sumerians is more specific, become more prosperous. So what one of these things up here would help them so much to become powerful and to grow as a civilization? In Mesopotamia, government and religion were closely linked. Mesopotamians believed that each city was protected by a particular god. Since it was believed that priests were connected to the gods, they were the most important people in the community, and they took on a governing role. As cities grew and conflicts arose, priests needed assistance from a leader. So as the city started to get bigger and bigger, they needed somebody to come in and help maintain order because of the conflicts that were coming up. So priests chose leaders to rule the city-states. To stay in power, the kings worked closely with the priests. Kings respected the priests' powers, so in exchange, the priests declared the king was sent from the gods to rule the city. Gradually, kings took over many jobs like hiring workers to build temples, roads, canals, and organize and manage the food supply. Each king became the city's primary lawmaker and judge. Some rulers even created a written set of rules or law codes. One of them was named Hammurabi. Hammurabi was the king of a city in Babylon. King Hammurabi was known because he was a harsh ruler, but he was also known because he was the first king to write down laws in stone so that people couldn't be easily changing them, because he was tired of people changing the laws. So he wrote them in stone, and we call this Hammurabi's Code. So how does this impact us today? Many governments copied his idea. For example, in the United States, our laws attempt to protect the people just like Hammurabi's law. Another connection between Hammurabi's Code and the US is the idea of innocent till proven guilty. Hammurabi said that instead of just throwing people in jail, proof was required. Today, punishments are a lot less harsh. Back in Mesopotamia, though, King Hammurabi didn't have enough military strength to keep the entire nation in order. As a result, he designed these severe punishments to serve fear into the people so that they would not attempt to break the law.